little later. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night for some people. Welcome to our Tableau Analytic user group, the February one. We are very excited today because we have a nice lineup, and we have for the first time Chimdi here as a co-host. But we will introduce Chimdi. Don't worry, for the one that doesn't know him, you should probably have a look at his Tableau Public profile, by the way, but yeah, you will know everything about him like in some minutes. So what makes this Tableau user group a little bit different is only about analytic in Tableau, Tableau Desktop, and Tableau Server, Web Editor as data. We will have events like from time to time this year, like the Tableau Team product. There, if you want to subscribe to our analytic Tableau user group and don't miss anything, you can always subscribe on the usergroup.tableau.com /analytic. You have the QR code. And we have also a Tableau forum use page. I will copy paste in the chat all this information. So the tag leader, we have like Prasam, who is like joining from time to time, is like one every 3 sessions, because it's a US APAC user-friendly session. And with Chimdi, we will be there for the US Europe user-friendly, so twice in a row and one. So the next session, for instance, in March, will be with Prasam and Chimdi. And they have also very, very good speakers. So the quality is always the same. Absolutely no problem. So some word about me, apart that I am like always very crazy when I introduce myself. My name is Annabelle Rincon. I am leading the Tableau Center of Enablement for Fontobel, which is a Swiss bank. And my patient life are like, everyone knows that it's chocolate and Tableau. And my beautiful dog passed away last year, so it's still in my heart, but I cannot spend time anymore with him. I'm also co-leading a Data Plus Women initiative, which is an initiative to promote women working with or around data. And if you want to register, you have the QR code. And I have been the chance to have been named last year Visionary and Ambassador for the 3rd year in a row. So I'm very happy, and I thank very much like the Tableau community for that. We have also Prasam, which is a Tableau social ambassador. Prasam, like I said, is not here today physically, but with our heart always. And Prasam has been working with Tableau for around 3 years, and he is also in several community building and mentoring. So it has been like, has a very huge impact on the Tableau community. And apparently, it's a fun fact that apart from his nerdy side, he likes to party. So maybe we will have the chance to see him on one of the data night out in the Tableau conference. And geeking over anime, I want to meet him because I'm a very huge fan of anime too. So let's see if we have the chance this year. And we have Chimdi, who has 7 V's of the day. I mean, his portfolio is very, very impressive. He's like, wow, it's always like very blow my mind. He has won 6-time Wheezies. We want to see your Wheezy next time, Chimdi. We have only one at the Tableau Analytic user group, so we are very jealous. He's also a Tableau Public ambassador, a data viz manager at Postmedia, and indeed he is data viz designer, very beautiful. I encourage you to look at his portfolio. He's a real artist. Yeah. And then the ground rule for today. As always, you have the chat section, and we will ask you if you want just to say hello, where you are joining from, use the chat session. If you have a question for our speaker, please use the Q&A. So it's easier for us to answer live at the end of each session. If we don't have the time live to answer to all of your questions, our panelists or ourselves will answer by writing in the chat, in the Q&A section later. So don't hesitate to use that, please. And enjoy. This session is being recorded and it will be found on the Tableau YouTube page. And I will also send an email afterwards. So maybe next week you will receive the email with the YouTube recording and any of the material that the speaker will be willing to share with us. Don't hesitate to send some love in social media by using the hashtag or the @analytic tag in Twitter. It's also, it works very well. Thank you for that. And now I have done all my job, and now I just have to enjoy the show, and Shimdi will introduce our amazing speaker that we have for you today.
Awesome, thanks, Annabelle. So I'm just gonna switch over and share my screen. Okay, I think that you might need to give me the ability to share, Annabelle.
Did I forgot?
Okay, so actually no, I think you can, yeah. So today our first speaker, awesome guy. I got a chance to actually get to talk with him, you know, starting like last year. Amazing person. He's a senior engineer at T-Mobile, specializing in data automation, and he's been hooked on Tableau since his first trial. He trains people, and he's part of the Center of Enablement. And so now he teaches people how to automate workflows and dynamically update dashboards. As far as a fun fact about Cesar, hopefully I'm saying that right. Is it Cesar or Cesar?
Cesar, yeah, my
Cesar.
folks call me Cesar.
Cesar.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Cesar needs us to understand, first of all, don't ask him to play the guitar because he really sucks at playing the guitar. But if you want to build fuzz pedals and gritty guitar amps, then he's your guy, because that's what he does. And he fakes it. No one seems to notice, but I'm sure he's pretty good at doing what he can do. Today, he's going to be talking about something, and it's called Too Big for Tableau. I won't go into any details. I'll let him introduce and take over from here. So over to you, Cesar.
Thank you.
Cesar.
Thank you, Chindi. And thank you, everybody. And a quick note out, Annabelle, I want to be the first to congratulate you on being nominated as a visionary for this year. The word just went out. So as I'm sitting here, I'm getting, you know, the tweets are coming in and I'm seeing all this happening. So really congratulations, and definitely want to be one of the first to definitely congratulate you. And yeah, come on, round of applause for Annabelle. Thank you for everything you do. So let's see, I am sharing my screen now. So let's go through and let me get started here. So how big is too big for Tableau? And this is actually an excellent question. So this is a fun one that I've always kind of thought about, and I've gotten a couple of use cases. It's funny because it's like I get larger and larger data sets sent my way, and it becomes easier and easier to answer this each year, because it's like I through trial and error, actually essentially a lot of trial, very few errors, but every once in a while or something, it becomes a question of, you know, is this too big for Tableau? And it's really an interesting answer. So before I get started though, and as we kind of move through, let me kind of start off with who this guy is, and this, my fuzzy picture. I am a senior engineer of software at T-Mobile. Before that, I worked at Pluralsight and with the government at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, at a KPMG, and at an education company called K-12. And through all this, got to work with Tableau, a lot of data analytics, but really the focus of this was I got to work with really huge data. And when I say really huge data, I mean really, really huge data. And this is kind of, if you worked with large data before, you understand that this is actually the perfect slide for it, because it's too big for most of the tools that you work with. It becomes a really difficult and unwieldy, and it's almost abstract in a sense, because you can't just kind of take it and email to someone. You can't take this and just pass this along. So it's kind of funny, because it's like there's the term big data, and I kind of hate the term big data. And it's funny because it's like throughout all this, I've heard people say I hate big data. You know, it's like I don't like the term big data. And there's kind of a reasoning behind this too, for most of the people. Usually it's experience. But a quick question out to the audience. So what is big data? What does it mean to you? If you want to just throw that in the chat, feel free to go ahead and throw it in the chat. But what does this mean to you? How do you answer this question? How do you define this too? Because there's no definition. Really, there's no definition out there. But I love hearing how people define this. Yes, millions of rows in a table. Yes, exactly. Too many rows to read. Very good. 1 billion plus rows, unstructured, huge data set, crashing Excel. Yes, exactly. You guys have experience. So this is definitely a perfect audience for this. We have massive data, yes, and many different formats. Queries that take longer than an hour. Oh my gosh, an hour could be short. So what is this? So let me go on to one of my favorite quotes, and this is from my coworker, Erin, back when I was at the CFPB. She would say, I used to think that big data was data that was too big for Excel. Now I think of it as data that's too big for Tableau. And yeah, that's actually pretty cool. But I use Tableau a lot. And it was kind of fun because I've always kind of tried to push this as to what is data that is too big for Tableau. And, with that, we kind of think about big data. And, as you can see, yeah, Tableau views can't render and Tableau desktop crashes, and line item details for medical accounts for hospitals, millions and millions of rows. Oh yeah, running out of space. So big data can be scary. And I pulled this in. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. I saw this the other day and it cracked me up, but it is the perfect analogy for big data. Here, you've got someone who's definitely not read the height requirements on their truck, and they're pulling their truck into their apartment building. And this is kind of it. This is big data can be really scary. It's unwieldy. You don't know what to do with it. And sometimes you can get into a certain situation and not be able to back out easily. And yes, yeah, exactly. You become, sometimes there's the panic moment of what do I do with this? Okay, now it's in the server. It's costing the organization money. We have cloud issues, and now our cloud costs are going up by the minute. Oh my goodness. And I can't put this on drives. I can't put this anywhere. Well, sometimes you take a look to see kind of what kind of damage has been done, and you realize you're in some serious poop. And yes, this is by far probably one of the worst situations, and probably one of the best analogies I've seen for some folks working with big data. It is so big, unwieldy, and sometimes you don't know exactly where you stand. And for us, kind of in the Tableau world, we're used to asking for all the data. And we're used to, going through and maneuvering this and being able to see it in a tool that we can work with. But before we take out all the plumbing in the apartment building, or before we really cause some serious damage, we've got to kind of look at kind of data in itself and try to figure out how to work with this and how to make it a lot more wieldy, so we don't create a big giant mess. And a lot of the things that we might try might actually kind of hurt us working with Tableau and working with larger data sets. But so of course I kind of went to Twitter with this, and I just wanted to know what people thought. The same question I just asked you guys was, what happens, what's the biggest data set you've ever used in Tableau? And it was jaw-dropping. 100 million rows, 200 million rows, 2.5 billion rows, 14 terabytes of data, but people with petabytes, 8 billion rows with Exasol, 40 billion rows, and with Snowflake. So you start to see there are people that are using giant quantities of data in Tableau. And it was fun to watch, because here you got to see, I got to see visionaries just jaw-dropping, going, I've never even thought about using this many rows of data. And for good reason too. Usually with visualization, you want to visualize something that's very it's manageable, something you can work with. But every once in a while, you get that use case that it really makes sense to kind of show the full picture. And you'd want to kind of aggregate up to do that. And there's some techniques to do so. And most of these you'll probably find out there. They're pretty easy to find. pardon me, like take a sip. It's pretty easy to find some of the techniques and kind of what you can do to kind of move through some of these rows of data. Two things that pop out here. Usually it's one of the things I'm starting to see is also it's very database driven. And this is something that I found as to what is hosting your data. So there some of the issues you have with very large data. How do you open it? In some cases, you'll crash your computer just by opening the data. You know, the file types, Parquet, you know, Avro, you know, there's CSV, there's, you know, pipe delimited data. There's so many different data sets out there. You know, Parquet, the Tableau doesn't open. You know, how do you open some of these files? Well, in some cases, it'll require some data prep and some analysis and some manipulation to get the data in the format you can use. Then on top of it, exploring this, you'll fill up your memory. It's so large that, you know, even 64 gigabytes of RAM isn't enough. It'll go through and fill up it. It's funny, actually, but this is the Mac that I tend to fill up the hard drive with by accident with data all the time, just because I wasn't paying attention and I fill up my hard drive. Usually an easy one to solve though. And then the other part of it is, where do I begin? How do I start working with data this large? So here, let me go through some of the strategies that you've probably heard before. You might not have ever heard these strategies, but there's definitely some of the strategies that you can kind of start to look at. The very first one is you need sample data. If you can get, you know, 10,000 rows of data, 100,000 rows of data, 500,000 rows of data to work with, it helps. Even 10 rows of data will help you understand kind of the file structure and how the data and the grain of that data. In some cases, data is set and situated perfectly for you. Other cases, it's not. I had a data set come my way where it worked really well in Tableau. And it was a giant data set. And what we found was, you know, going through and finding a perfect sample size of it. You know, we were working with economists and they were taking a 0.1% sample of the data set. And that was 800 million rows of data. Now, in order for that to work with Tableau too, and a lot of the tools that they were using, they've gone through and codified the data inside the data set. So if it's, say, if it was a sale, it would have, you know, a code of 1. If it was a return, it would have a code of 2. You know, if it was an exchange, it'd have a code of 3. And they would go through the entire data set and codify all of their dimensions with these codes, so that instead of going through and sending through large amounts of dimensions, they just had these codes. And later on, they could probably just go through and alias them in Tableau and show them off that way, making it a lot easier to work with. But the first step is going through and finding that sample of data. And even if you can, if it makes sense, finding a smaller sample where you still have the power of that very large data set. And this is statistics and probability, really. When you go through and you find that perfect size to work with, maybe you don't necessarily need to bring in all, you know, 8 or 9 billion rows of data. So that's one example where you can kind of go through and use a smaller sample. I know with some of the large data sets, we actually just produce like 1% tables, just so that people can use them in Tableau and get like a quick idea of what the data looks like and kind of how to go through and look at the next step here, which is filtering. Well, what fields can you filter on? You know, say you may only need, you know, data for Switzerland and you have a global data set. You know, how do you go through? Well, we can just go through and find Switzerland's data. And we may only need the last 5 years of data, or maybe the last 5 months, or the last 5 days, depending on how large your data set is. Well, the next step is you kind of think about it and you're like, well, how do I filter this down to a smaller data set? And that's kind of the idea with most large data sets and getting it into a BI tool, is you'll start off large and you kind of think of these requirements along the way where, you know, we're only looking at data for the American public or the Canadian public or Mexico. You know, well, let's go through and filter to that first. And maybe we only need, you know, the major metropolitan areas. So let's filter down to that and let's kind of take everything else out. So we don't necessarily need to have billions and billions of rows. Now we're probably down to the millions and millions. But you never know. Sometimes you might need to have everything again. It all depends on kind of what that executive ask is and how it's coming through. So yeah, there is somebody just asked a question about reading Parquet and Tableau. Not yet. Chat GPT on the user experience and expectations. Actually, I do think it will actually help out. Being able to find that N score where you can kind of find the right number of rows that you can possibly use in a data set of a certain size. I have a feeling, I haven't tried it yet, but I'd love to shoot that through Chat GPT and see if I can get that, being able to find that statistical probability of a powerful sample from a data set. Just reading through everything else that people said. Data, which is always changing, schema, and at a fast pace, yes. So yeah, definitely a lot here. So going through and filtering. So my next slide, I'm going to this. And I'm not talking about LODs today. This is, if you've not seen this, this is Tableau's order of operations. And this is really important for data, especially when you're working with data such a really large numbers. Extract filters happen first. Next, you have data source filters. So if you're extracting and you're filtering for that extract, that's the very first thing that happens in Tableau. Tableau doesn't do anything. It doesn't build anything. It doesn't try to draw at anything. It doesn't try to figure out dimensions or measures. It will go through and create that extract filter first. Next, it does that data source filter. And that's kind of that next step, which is actually kind of where you want to catch Tableau if you have a data set that's too large. If you start to filter your data, say if we're filtering for Switzerland, for example, in Annabelle's case, now we can do this as a data source filter. And we're doing that within the tool. And we don't need SQL. We don't need to talk to a data team. We don't need really anything of that nature. We can do that there. Something else that happens too is you'll have people that either send in initial SQL or they kind of build their custom SQL too. I tend to shy away from suggesting that. It works. It definitely works. If you just need to get a data source into Tableau quickly and you're putting something together, you can definitely use the initial SQL or the custom SQL to just get that little bit of data that you need. And if that's something that you use, well, you go ahead and use it, but it will slow Tableau down. So I tend to suggest people go through and filter at the data source. So this way they're really getting through, say, I'm just setting a filter for country equals Switzerland. Very easy. Now I'm just getting my Swiss data from my data source. It makes life a lot easier. So let me continue moving on. There we go. I'm going to find my mouse. So what does that mean? So a lot of people, you know this, the data screen. Really, here you're at the data pane. And if you were to look at that data pane and go all the way to the right of the data pane, you might have seen this. You might have never even touched that little add button. This is your data source filter. If you go through and you click there, what you're able to do at this point is you're able to go through and start to filter. And for this, let me go live to Tableau. Let's show you kind of that data source. So I'm kind of jumping ahead right now too. So there is kind of the next step as well as to, well, there is data that you can go through, you can start using. And well, let's show off that data source filter first. So if you were to go to the data source filter, click add, and here you're able to see just kind of what you're looking for. It's like if you want to go by postal code or price, you can click on that. And let's try postal code. And what it will do is it opens up that filter, and then it tells you kind of here are the postal codes for what you're looking for. Do you want to filter for just 1 or 10? Go ahead and do it here. And it does it at the very, very beginning of the process. So no SQL needed, and you're doing this, and it's very quick and it's immediate. And if you do this properly, you'll be able to kind of bring that sample down so much smaller. So now I'm jumping ahead and so historically, I've worked with large data sets, or the really, really large data sets. That's kind of where I come from. And I get these problems shot at me all the time of like, what do we do? The executives want to see this. They don't want to see our sample size anymore. They want to see what it is in real life, and they want to compare it. Well, they usually come to me, and this is where I live. This is the space I love to be in. And it's taken me years to get here. I've kind of gone through different processes, gone through and worked with different programs, and the solution I found that works best for me in my situation is using a database called Exasol. Exasol, this is a whole architecture issue. I'm not going to go too deep into that too, because this has kind of been like the last 3 years of my work is, developing a data warehouse that runs on Exasol, which Exasol is a database that keeps things in memory. So it's very fast. So imagine, if you had all of the work that you worked on just in your memory on your computer, you don't have to go to the drive. You don't have to go really throughout and create all these calls. In this case, it's there and it's ready to go. And it also kind of self-tunes. So it goes through and it finds the data I use most frequently, and it has it available for me. And not just for me, but for all the engineers on my team that I work with, it's ready for them too. So as they're using it, the more popular the data is, the faster the data gets. It's cached in memory and it's ready to go. So that's kind of going back to that slide where people were talking about, their databases. The two that I found that kind of work out best are Snowflake and Exasol for this. Snowflake, you can go through and you can really push up your machine size so you can get all that compute power. And with Exasol, their trick is that they put it all in memory and it's just ready to go. It's like they have it and they've got the answer ready. It's kind of nice because it's a way of cheating the database, since you're not necessarily going through building the query and then telling the systems to go out and find the data and then pull it and return it back to you. Now in Tableau, what does that mean? Well, that pretty much means, let me go through and I'll show you, the connection and such to the database. And also now I've got a sample here with a super large data set. I'm going to just click new, trying to figure out where my new window went. Well, regardless. And this is they have a sample out of, this is kind of their demo database. They have different data sets here. Chicago taxis, one of them, opioids, evictions. These are really interesting. I went with retail just because, since I'm working on kind of that big data question, what is there? What's in this big data set? And sales positions is one of their largest tables that they have. I'm trying to see if I don't know why I'm not getting a new sheet. You know what? It might have opened somewhere else. No. Oh, here we go. Okay. I'll go back to that sheet, and I don't want to ever. So let's go ahead and connect to data. I'm going to connect to Exasol by JDBC. This is actually one of their new drivers. They have an ODBC connection as well. I have this all pre-populated. Thought about this, and hopefully that works out. Let's see. Executing. So now this is going to Exasol's demo server. And I'll give you a link at the end of this. The guys that I work with on a regular basis at Exasol sent me a slide, and they have a QR code that you can click on, and you can request a authentication failure. Okay, hang on just a second. This is always the fun part of going live. That was my password, didn't work. Let's try this again. So with that, you can actually go in and request access to your own version of their demo account. But what's really cool about this is that you can go through, you log in just like me, they send you a username and a password you can use. You can load your data to the database if you're SQL savvy. If not, you can just connect to it with Tableau too. But you can do this kind of stuff where you go through, you connect to the retail schema. Said you connect to the retail schema. There we go. And now we're going to take that out and build this. And this is one of the processes I put together just for, really what I want to show is how someone with very minimal Tableau training can kind of come in to a database and also use it. I'm just using relationships here. I found that one of my issues was that the way we go through and we do this, we can can't connect sales directly to articles, so I have to go through sales positions to get there. And then markets. So great markets, I can update my data, but I'm not going to do that because I'm really itching to get to here. Because what I want to show you is this. If I were to take a count of my sales positions, give it a second, 3.3 billion rows of data. Big data set, big data set. And it just went up like that. What's nice about this is you can start building your visualizations as if you just started. Let's see, let's do this part here. I would take my long and my lat and throw them here. Of course, they're averages. Let's see what we build out. So we're building out, since Exasol is a German company, of course, their data set is here in Germany. So I'm going to change these to dimensions. So we're not necessarily showing averages anymore, but we're building out a map. And these are the locations that are retail stores. And let's have fun with this. Let's make this look pretty too. Let's do a density map, because actually, believe it or not, I do this a lot. This is kind of a daily work type thing for me. And let's find a good color. Let's see, what's a good one? Sunrise, sunset. There we go. That's a pretty one. And we can work in intensity too. It looks like Berlin is coming off the map here, and we'll kind of see why in just a second. But remember how many rows of data we're connecting to. And really, I'm kind of going through this. My big thing is, let me look at it as if I just had 2 or 3 days of Tableau training. And how am I going to build out a dashboard with that kind of information? So this is a really big number. And this is our map. And let's take a look at, what are we looking at? We wanted to go by sales by city. So let me take a quick look and try to remember how I did this before. So I did this earlier. Of course, got lost. All right, yeah. So my sales date will go here. Once again, not trying to impress anybody with the visualization skills. Moreover, trying to build something quickly. So I can also show this off. And we've got our, let's see. Here we go. Let's do this. Just a quick view of our sums. Once again, keep in mind the number of rows we're working with too. We're working with a lot of data here. And let's go across to the city and show the city here in color. Have fun. There we go. That bursts into crazy spaghetti, but we can use that later. Let's make it look a little nicer. What do I like? My custom palette. Why not? Put these colors in after a second or two. Did I not click that button again? I'm having mouse problems today. And most of the mouse problems are with me, but let's see, here we go. Assign palette. Yes. All right, it works. Yes, all right. And here come our colors. So they look a little nicer. Now we're looking at sales, and we can see why Berlin jumps off the map. Next, we'll see Munich, and finally Hamburg, and Duisburg, and some of the other Hanover, and some of the other larger cities there too, by sales. So I'm not going to correct. Usually, I correct the drop-offs and the ramp-ups, but for sake of time, I'm not going to do that right now. Let's say sales per city. And finally, this one I'm going to skip because I had an issue. Well, why not? Let's do it. this is the one that took me forever this morning, and I think it has to do with my internet connection. Last night when I was doing it, it took me about 2 minutes to render. So it was up in a heartbeat and I was loving it. And this morning when I tried doing it again, it took forever. So I'll go ahead and, oh, that's not what I want. Let me go through with group product description. Let's see what sells. So we go through, we do that here. We've got the description. Okay, that didn't go. Let's do description, group product description. Let's look at average purchase price. So I'll pull that over as well. Just looking also to see if there's anything coming through. This does this nasty single thing where I don't want you as continuous. I want you as discrete. Just give me a number. And then finally, so this is where everything kind of goes haywire. I'm going to just take just a count. You know, how many of these things do we sell? And let's go through and try to build out a bar chart. So like I said last night, about 2 minutes for this to run. Today, it took me much longer. Oh, look at that. Somebody's watching. I love it. Okay. So, okay, cool. So now we can see what sells. Well, first product group description is alcohol. Then from there, drinks, meat, milk and meat products and such. And now we're looking at these. And let's just throw a label to see just kind of what our counts are of sales too. So you get an idea of how many marks we're looking at. These are really big numbers. And we're doing this all in Tableau. This is kind of that magic of having that in-memory data. So what it's doing is it's actually keeping a lot of this in memory. And I must have practiced this so many times last night that it probably just kept it in memory for me, which is why it came up right away. Very cool. But let's actually call this a top 10 list. And I'm going to add in a very nasty index. But once again, I'm pretending I have just a few days of Tableau training. And also just doing this for time. So going through running an index across all of that. And of course it goes continuous. Let's make this discrete, pull it to the front. And I'll just do a top 10. And keep these guys. We're filtering. This is actually not even, if you think about it, you know, it can also be sloppy. So kind of the idea is, you know, you don't necessarily want to build these perfectly, especially when you're thinking about your audience. You know, some of these guys might have just started using Tableau. So let's go through, put these together in a dashboard, see what we look like. So we got a map, we got our sales per city. And as you can see, so kind of the point I want to get across is that, we don't need to show those colors. Really just about anybody, if you set up the data properly, and like I said, this has been 3 years in the making for me at work, where if you set up the data properly for folks to just go through and access, they can start using billions of rows of data and put this together in Tableau this fast. Now, it's very cool. It is really exciting to see people get to this data, and they've used different systems. They've come from like Hadoop world. They've come from, you know, years of SQL. But really, now we did everything in Tableau. I didn't use any SQL at all. I didn't go fancy, and built out a dashboard where now if we want to see, you know, just kind of focus on Berlin at this point. Oh yeah, wait, I need to filter it. Now using, you know, kind of just really out of the box Tableau type features. Nothing fancy, no Zen master tricks or anything fancy here. This is just kind of how the dashboard is operating. And the fun part of this is, you know, if you don't believe me, you can try it for yourself. There's tons of data here. I'll share that link with everybody so they can go and try it out for themselves. That's actually what got me. I didn't believe it. And it wasn't until there was a Makeover Monday that used Chicago taxi data that was housed in Exasol. where I got a chance to really go hands-on, and it made all of the difference, made a complete world of difference. So I'll leave it at that. Really, I've got a couple minutes for questions, but also let me pop this up on the screen too, because these are the guys that I work with at Exasol. Some of you guys might have met Matt. Zach, I don't think Zach came to the Tableau conference. Matt was at the Tableau conference and he was talking to everyone. If you just take a click of this too, on that page, what you'll find is the link to request access to a trial account. And you can try this for yourself. You can see how it works on your machine. And like I said, the more you use the data, the more it caches into memory and the faster it works. So it's really cool. If you've got data that you want to load there, go ahead and load it. And it's actually really, really fun if you can use SQL. If not, you can actually just connect to the data set. You do have to load drivers into Tableau, but you can go through and start using it in that manner. So let me put that back up if I can find it. Here we go. And you guys can take that picture there if you need it. I'll hang out in the chat to take any questions, and I'm sure there will be. I think after asking that question of how many rows have you put into Tableau, I think there's a user group in there somewhere, like, you know, really huge data user group for people who use giant data sets, and we can definitely share tricks and tips. But yeah, if that's you too, feel free to do that. One last thing too, yeah, I think I saw Rob here asking something about the PCs and the power. One thing we noticed too with Tableau and Alteryx and pretty much all the tools we were working with is one of the other issues is power. And as you get more and more powerful computers, which, you know, if you're in the telecom industry, work with engineers, we can kind of ask for these larger machines and get more memory and get larger processors. It scales up. You can actually use more data in Tableau. So if you think big data is data that's too big for Tableau, well, in reality, it's hardware. You get to the point of where you run out of hardware power. And now with the cloud, you don't even need it anymore. You can just go through and spin up clusters. And that is really where, is it too big for Tableau? Not really. You can just keep adding more compute power, more memory to Tableau, and it'll just kind of keep scaling up. I haven't found a limit, and we've got servers running with 1 terabyte of memory to do a lot of this work, and they're using Tableau. It's insane. It looks amazing, but we're getting, you know, really, we're getting our billions and billions of rows of data showing up there. Now, you may not have that, but you can. There are other ways through that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Cesar. Shindy will ask you some of the questions, but the problem with that is that often my user has more memory on their own machine than on my Tableau server. So I have to, but maybe you want to touch that, because that is something also that was asked in the chat and not in the Q&A. They're asking like for a Tableau best practice. So I often tell them like, please don't try to replicate the table that you see in Snowflake in Tableau. What we want is a drill down analysis, but I'm sure that you will.
you become that U-Haul truck driver. Yeah, you don't want to be that person. And also, you know, it's like the same thing true with any kind of extract you take. You want to be very careful and very cognizant of your server admins, because they will come calling. And once again, that driver for that rental truck, they left the truck there. They took off running and the police were looking for them. So yes, after causing millions of dollars of damage, you can do the same in an enterprise too, doing the wrong thing. So definitely, if you've got questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to take those questions.
So I guess if we have a few moments here, one question that I think I've seen most people ask is in the Q&A is basically if they have a data source filter, is that going to be faster than using custom SQL to do the filtering? So do you have any kind of pointers for us on that?
It depends on the underlying data. Really, that's kind of it. The big, it's funny because I always think of Andy Cockgrave, where his "it depends" answer is so true here. But it depends on the underlying data, where it's housed, the database that's being used. In some cases, you've got people that are running SQL Server that is so well tuned, and it runs so well and efficient. It's not really that big of an issue. But I do like using those data source filters. They're usually my first stop before I go to custom SQL.
Okay, so there you have it. It sounds like we should try the data source filters before custom SQL. I'll just ask one more, and I will encourage,
sure.
you know, some of these questions. I think we can pass them off to you after, and then people, I think, we'll figure out a way. But a lot of
Happy
people are
to.
asking, is the performance we're seeing because of Exasol? Is that a major component here? That's what they're asking. Okay, so it
That's
is.
really it. It's the underlying database, and that's kind of part of why I picked XSL to build out a data warehouse. And the other part of it too was I want to spoil my engineers that I work with on my team, where they can just go through and the data is ready for them. They need to find it. It's housed neatly, and they can just go through, create some quick. Really, here you're just kind of creating those relationships in Tableau. You don't have to think about it, and it just works together. We want to take away that part of it, and we do a lot of work on the front end to get the data that nice and clean in XSL, and that really is probably one of the tricks. I mean, it works in other databases too, but that's also the other part of it too. I think the real magic recipe though is the in-memory database, where there are I saw somebody mention the other databases that run off GPUs. They run off of graphics cards, and they're cool. And we looked into them. They're really fast, but certain things they don't do as quickly. So it's an interesting place in the data world right now. There's a lot of I refer to them as hipster databases out there, where you know they're good at one thing, and a lot of developers love them for one certain thing, but they may not be good for everything. And really, that's kind of it: is look at your data and try to find a database and an underlying data strategy that works best for your users. And that's kind of what we try to do. Coming from a COE environment, now I wanted to take that one level further and look at how to automate data into a warehouse and make it so that anyone can get to it and use it. And it works as if it's 10,000 rows of data.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
So do we have time for one more, Annabelle, or shall we? Okay, so this one should be quick and easy. I've seen a couple people ask, how much of a role does the machine, so Mac versus PC, is that even a factor?
You know what? It really isn't. I mean, I do have to say I was actually really surprised with the Apple Silicon. I've gotten an M1 Mac, and I do think it actually performs better. There's some tuning that needs to happen, but like Tableau Prep, for example, started running Tableau Prep on the M1 Mac, and I was so impressed. It ran so much better on the M1 system than I'd seen before. So, but once again, we use Intel servers. So we even use AMD servers too. So it really is, it's as far as it goes, it kind of washes out. So it's about memory and power. So I will let Dinushki get ready, and I'll keep watching the chat for any questions and such.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much for that, Cesar. Okay, so next we have Dinushki, who is going to be talking to us about maps, tips, and tricks in Tableau. She is a senior business analyst at Unifund and RDS in Cincinnati, and she found her love for Tableau and data visualization during a grad school talk by someone we all know, Jeff Schaefer. And so today, I believe you work with Jeff today still, right?
I do, yes.
Awesome. That's amazing. I bet that's wonderful. And she loves introducing and promoting the subject to everyone. And she's a part of Women in Data. So, you know, kind of helping women upskill and get better at what basically she does and a lot of other people do. So I'm sure we're going to learn a lot today from her. With that, I'm going to pass it over to her to get us going on this.
And just to have it on record, Chimdi and Prasam was named also Tableau Visionary this year, meaning that the full analytic leadership are. So congrats, Chimdi.
Thank you. My phone was vibrating. I was like, what's going on? And so I just saw my inbox kind of getting filled up. So much appreciated. Thank you so much. It's really a great feeling, I'd say.
Am I sharing my screen right now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I didn't even realize I did that. Did you guys do that for me?
I don't know, but
Annabelle, I could see you sneaky over there. Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Dinushki. I am on Twitter as DVisible. So today I am going to talk to you about some map tips and tricks using Tableau and Mapbox. So some quick recap on what, not recap, quick agenda on what I'm going to be talking about. First, I'll talk about some tips on customizing map backgrounds on Tableau, and then some fun insights on how you could drill down in your map. And this I feel like is useful when it comes to business dashboards or even personal dashboards, but I find it useful typically when I create business dashboards. A lat and long grid, again, we'll get to that. And then also how to create transparent maps using Tableau. For whatever reason you want to transfer and map, you're going to learn how to do it today. And also how to customize maps using Mapbox. And we'll talk about how to customize streets, fonts, buildings, and also my favorite part is the zoom layers. So there are tips for whatever level of Tableau you are on right now, whether it's beginner or intermediate. And I promise none of this is intimidating. It's all super easy. And if you have any questions, please let me know at the end or reach out and feel free to ask in the chat. Okay, so let's get right to it. I'm going to start by opening my my Tableau. I'm going to be using this ACLED data. It is data that tracks crises and conflicts around the world, and they kind of map them out and give you the lat and long for these incidents. So we are going to learn how to customize our map backgrounds. So as you can see, I have put country on detail here. And obviously, everyone knows you could put country on color, and you have, colors for each of your countries. So, however, you can't really customize the water or the outside of your country borders. And a quick, easy way to do that, of course, you do have the option of changing your map background, your background maps to streets, for example, which will give you a pretty beautiful blue. And then you have dark and you have light, but that's pretty it. What if you want obnoxious pink, like maybe the color of my wall, as your map background, just to fit your color palette or whatever you're doing? So to do that, you are going to go to your map layers. You're going to take off this base layer. Now we have a white background. We are going to right click and hit format, and we're going to go to shadings up here. Take off this worksheet white color, make it none. And then we're going to change our pane color to an obnoxious pink. Or it doesn't have to be obnoxious. It could be a beautiful color that isn't so crazy. So you do have the ability to change those colors however you want without being restricted to the Tableau colors. This also comes in handy if you are zoomed in to a certain place. I'm from Colombo, Sri Lanka, so let's go over there. And if you are zoomed in, and we can change our map to, a map to streets. And let's say that you are just not a fan of this weird gray background color that you have here, and you just want to get it to the color that you want. You can simply do the same thing. Go to your maps, go to your background layers, take off that base layer, right click format, go to your shadings, take the worksheet color off, and then now your street level background is also customizable. So that's definitely a fun way to customize your map. We will talk later about how to customize further using Mapbox and bring it back to Tableau. But now on to my next tip. So for my next tip, I am going to show you how to use 2 different geometry levels in one map. That might sound confusing, but it really isn't. I'm using this workbook that I asked if I could steal it for this use case. This is a median rent by county. I don't know if anyone can recognize this, but this is designed by Kevin Quillage. It is a public map on recovery decision science, which is RDS, which is what I work for. So quick plug, go check it out. Anyway, so this is the median rent by county map that Kevin created. It's beautiful and it is on a county level. But let's say that we want to see it on a state level and a county level. So one way of doing that is having 2 maps side by side, or you can do a sheet swap, have one map behind the other, or a little toggle and be able to do that. Or you could use this simple trick. So basically what I did was I just took the county level of detail out from Kevin's map and I duplicated his sheet. So now we're here. So we have it now on a state level, but I also want to see it on a county level at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create a parameter called state to county. Apparently I have one already because I practiced. I'm going to call it state to county 2. And then I'm going to make it a string. And I'm going to make it a list, and I'm going to add these values from my state name. So now we have all our states in this parameter. Okay. Next, I'm going to create a calculated field called state to county, because I can't come up with anything else right now. And I'm going to say if my state to county parameter is equal to my state name, it's a super easy calc, then please take my county name. Else null, end, or just end, don't really need the else null there. Okay, so now we have our state to county calculation that says if my parameter says Ohio and my state name is Ohio, then show me the counties that belong to Ohio. So we're going to take that and put it on detail. And if you look carefully at, so let's show this, let's show this parameter. It's currently at Alabama. And if you look at Alabama, it is now on a county level. If you switch this to Ohio, which is right here, just look at Ohio, bam, now it's on a county level. So if you want to make this more dynamic and easier to use, we're going to go to worksheet, create an action. Kevin has created some great actions here that we are going to remove for now, and create a parameter action. We're going to call this state to county. And we are going to use our state to county parameter, and our source field is going to be our state name. Okay, and now if you click on a state, it will go from state level to county level. You don't need 2 maps, you have it all in one spot. Okay. So that was, and you can also do that from a country to state level. So if you have all the countries, you can drill down to different states when you click on the country, or from region to state, whatever you want, depending on what geometric fields you have. And now that, yes, it would have to be specific to geometric fields if you're using this method. Okay, next tip is so we've covered these two. Our next tip is lat and long grid. So we do see some beautiful maps that have these like grid look. And apart from just the beauty of the grid look, I'm going to tell you about how you can make it informative and useful too. So I'm going to use this ACLED data. And I'm going to put country on detail. And I'm going to put fatalities on detail. Oops. Fatalities. Sorry, let's put fatalities on sets. What is going on? Okay, sorry. We have to take our lat and longitude from our data, not the generated lat and longitude. So we're going to make it a dimension, and then I'm going to put my fatalities on size. 1 second, sorry. Okay, so I can just put it on detail. Yeah, okay. So I have put the number of deaths on detail. So now we can see all the deaths that happen due to these conflicts and crises on our map. However, if I wanted to understand where this is more serious, it's not super clear. Of course, you may say, let's put the number of deaths on color. And that's kind of what we get. And we still don't have a great story here. It's really hard to see what is happening where and where it is more serious. So to be able to, and it's just, there's just dots on dots on dots on dots, and you really can't see the different layers here. So to be able to do that a little bit better, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a calculation, 2 calculations. One is going to be round, already have that. So round lat, and I'm going to take the round of my latitude, comma 0. I'm simply going to duplicate this. And I'm going to, sorry, bear with me as I take you guys through this. I'm going to replace my latitude now with my longitude. So now we have our round lat and we have our round long. We're going to make them geographic fields. We're going to make them a latitude, and we're going to make this a longitude. Just like blanking as I go. And then I'm going to replace my latitude with a new rounded latitude, and I'm going to replace our longitude with our new rounded longitude. Going to make them both dimensions, and now you have something like this, where you can now way easier, quickly pick out the places that had more deaths and that are more crucial, or you need to pay more attention to these places. And if we want, we can put the name or the region on our tooltip, and we can see what the regions, or what exact country that is. We can also make this a square, and it also looks, data isn't beautiful, or the data that we're talking about isn't great, but if you do have, some, either way, the graph is easier to read and it is more visually pleasing than this. So that was lat and long grid. Next, I want to show you guys some transparent maps. We're going back to customizing and playing with the different map layers on Tableau maps. So to be able to create a transparent map, for whatever reason, if you don't like the background colors, or you want a gradient color behind your map, or you want an image behind your map, you can do that. All you have to do is go to exactly what I did before. Go to your map layers, take out your base layer, and then format, and go to your worksheet, take this off. And now simply, like right now, you have a transparent map. So let's take this transparent map in Tableau, go over here to this image that we have. Today we have the ocean, and we're gonna put whatever country that we have on there on the ocean. So here we have our transparent map on Tableau that we just created. And now it is on the ocean transparently. So of course you can, play with this. And I did have Sri Lanka here. That's when it looked cooler. Okay, now it's disappeared. So, okay. Anyway, it's possible. My choice of everything right now is awful. So do not take this example, but you know how to do it. Transparent map on image is possible, or a gradient color or whatever. I've actually used the same method to create this map over here, a little bit nicer than what I was showing you. So it is possible to put, a beautiful color block or whatever behind the transparent map. Okay, so next up, we are going to go to Mapbox. This is simply because you have the ability to create these beautiful maps on Tableau. However, if you wanted to, change the color of your text, or change the color of the streets, or, whatever aspect that you have on this map, and you want to customize it, you're able to do that on Mapbox. And so easily integrate it to Tableau, which is the nice part. So to go to Mapbox, you simply need to go to mapbox.com and create an account. It takes like 2 minutes. You go to when you go to your account, you go to your little guy over here, and you go to Studio. And once you start building maps, you will end up with, being able to save all your maps here, so you can go back and create them again, or go back and edit them. But today we are going to create a new map. Mapbox already has created some beautiful maps here that you're able to use, but I'm going to start with a simple monochrome map. Even for monochrome, they have different colors and whatever. So you are able to already start with something exciting, but I'm going to start with a light map, and we're going to start customizing this. It can look intimidating, but I promise you it really isn't. And they have updated Mapbox a little bit since I last used it. So the features have gotten better. So we are in New York. And we want to, let's say, change the color of the streets of New York. This is a limit on Tableau. You're not able to change the colors of the streets apart from, use the default maps on Tableau. And the streets are different colors there, but you really can't customize them. Okay, with all that said, to be able to do this, you have a couple of options. You can go to your layers, and you can drill down into each of these layers. If we're talking about roads, you can go to road network, drill down, and find all the little details of what you're looking for here and customize it that way. Or simply, you can go to whatever you're trying to customize and click on it, and it'll show you all the components that are right there where you clicked. And then you will hit, let's see, I haven't clicked on exactly what I wanted. So let's hit this street here, and we want to customize this road. So road simple, we override the color, and let's make it a beautiful purple. So really quickly and really easily, you're able to customize the streets of Manhattan. Let's say you want to color the buildings, you're able to do that too. Again, simply click on buildings, you go to your building, override, and change the color of your building. So easy. And the great thing about this is you can customize every single thing, whether it's a walking path or a park or a street or whatever. Let's say we want to change the street signs to a different font. Click on the street sign, road label, go to font, override, and pick whatever font you want. And now you have a custom font on your streets. So it is really so easy and so customizable and actually very user-friendly. At least I think so. We have the river here. We can also color the river, the water to override to blue or whatever it is. You can even go further into this. I mean, I can talk about this all day, but a couple of things. For example, you can change your different customization on different zoom layers. So if you want this layer to be white, and when you zoom in, you want this layer to be green, you are able to do that. You're able to set your zoom layers and your customization however you want. And that is super, super handy if you want to, create a very customized, beautiful map. But before I go, I have one more tip that I love to add to my visualizations. And that is, now I have to remember this, but that is to be able to change my map layer according to my zoom. So if I'm out here and I have this monochrome look, it's not monochrome anymore, but if you have this simple look, but when I zoom in, I kind of want to see what this building really looks like in real life. And I want to put a satellite view when I zoom in so that I can see exactly what St. James Roman Catholic Church looks like. So to be able to do that, I am going to first click on the zoom level that I want. So let's say that at this layer, I want to start switching to a satellite. So I'm going to click on this layer and go to my land. And over here, you can see the zoom layer that you're on. So right now I'm at 15.5. If I zoom in, sorry, that's zooming out. If I zoom out, you can see that little tick move. If I zoom in, you can also see the tick move the other way. So I know that around 15.5, I want to start moving my map to a satellite view. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to add a new layer. When you hit add a new layer, you have all sorts of options, but I want a simple satellite look. So I'm going to use Mapbox Satellite. I'm going to pick it. And now they have changed it already to my satellite view. However, I want to make sure that I want this only at zoom level 15. So I'm going to make my minimum zoom extent 15. So beyond 15, it's going to be showing my satellite map. So that's set. We're good to go. I'm going to click back here. And now we're out of it, zoomed out. And when you zoom in, we are on our satellite map and we can see exactly what that church, I don't even know where it went now, but that church looked like. So that's super handy dandy if you are trying to, zoom into a certain place and you want to, show a project or an area where something is happening, I don't know, whatever the use case is. I love using that because you're giving so many options. You're giving the clean look, also giving the ability to zoom in to a satellite. So, however, to close off, I am going to publish this as a new map. and I'm going to share it. I'm going to go to third party and I'm going to switch it to Tableau. I'm going to copy. I'm going to bring it in here. And I'm going to go to maps, map, background maps. I'm going to add a map box map. I'm going to call this zoom layer. I'm going to copy that URL that I just copied from Mapbox, paste it in here, and bam, now we have the customized map that we brought in. And now when we zoom in, this better work. When we zoom in to level 15, oh no, why are you not working? Let's try it again. What did I do wrong? Okay, so you can see the pink streets. We got that far. Maybe my level, okay, and now, okay, it's just grass. There's really nothing to see there, but if there was, you know, buildings or whatever, you would be able to see it. But let me just, please, for my like sanity, show you so that I can leave here without not being able to see. There we go. So now you can zoom in and you have your buildings. When you zoom out, you don't. So that was a couple of map tricks from me. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. I'm happy to take any questions. My husband is watching from downstairs, so he's clapping. Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That has been so helpful. I think that we're definitely about to see a lot of new beautiful maps coming into Tableau. So okay, let's see what we got for questions. Someone asked how to specifically, actually no. So what is the round lat function doing? Is it just spreading out the marks across the country?
Okay, great question. So the round, lat, and long is basically aggregating the surrounding locations and basically giving you an aggregated field instead of having all these little dots around it. And instead of now your dots being layered on top of each other, they're now aggregated. And you definitely should be careful when you're using this, because if you put a certain level of detail on it, then dots could stack on top of each other. So I would definitely make sure that you are using it correctly. And I'm happy to, you know, help you with that.
All right, thank you so much. Another one is, what will be the difference if we put longitude and latitude as measures instead of dimensions like you've done?
So for longitude and latitude, the reason we make it a dimension is because we want each specific lat and long. Whereas if you keep it as a continuous measure, it will, you know, it won't take each and every lat and long as a point. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, that was probably a really bad explanation, but I guess I just don't know how to explain why you would not use it as a dimension. Anyone else? Like why do we use lat and long as a dimension and not a continuous variable? It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think one thing I've noticed is that it tries to plot it like a chart, and so it's looking at X and Y stuff rather than geographic locations. That's what I found sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's
And
that.
we've got some answers on the chat as well.
Yes, there you go. Okay, yeah, that's correct. So it does the calculations using those numbers. That's exactly what Tableau does. Awesome.
Right.
Okay, so let's see if we have one more, and then I think Dinushki, maybe you can help us out. Just go answer some in the Q&A. That'll be appreciated.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so I would say this one seems fairly important. Someone says they usually have a lot of null location values, and so rather than have the null value removed from the view, is it possible to have it shown as a mark on the map, like in the body area or something like that?
Okay, so this has nothing to do with like lat and long or points. You're just saying if there isn't any data in that area, you don't want it to leave, you want that area to still be shown.
That's
Correct?
pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the ways you can do that is put a dummy variable in there, and that way you are still kind of forcing a data point there, but there really isn't data, so it will still show on your map. Or you can always put a background map under your layer with the data so that the map under the layer that has the data is static and that doesn't move, but you have the layer with the data on top of that. So you have the full map behind and then the data layer on top. So the layer with the data that doesn't have the data, you'll still be able to see the map through it.
Awesome. Thank
My
you.
two
Hopefully
ways.
that helps answer that question. And I think if anyone has any more, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and Dinushki will be, gracious enough to help us answer those.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks so much. That's like so much goodness coming through. So we have one more speaker today. Last but not least, we are going to hear from Nir, and he is a senior data visualization engineer at ZoomInfo, and he is the Analytics Center of Excellence leader. He's also a Tableau Public featured author and ambassador. And as far as how his Tableau journey has been so far, he was originally a financial analyst who used to make visits in Excel. And then he discovered Tableau. And like most of us, it was just like love at first sight. And so aside from doing visits at work, you can check out his profile. He does a lot of visiting on there, like really, really great stuff. And a fun fact about Nir, aside from visiting, he loves music. He plays the guitar, the keyboard, he likes to hike, and he loves photography. So lots of stuff going on there. And with that, he's going to talk to us today about the making of Tableau Public Portfolio Viz using the image role and map layers. And so this could actually be like depending on what's coming through, another way to use map layers, where Dinushki has kind of talked about different tips and tricks with actually building maps. And Cesar is going to show some other uses of map layers. So it should be interesting. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to him to get us going.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me and see my screen? Great. So, hello. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I want to congratulate Annabelle and Chimdi for being visionaries. Really cool. Way to go. And I want to thank Cesar and Dinushki for their lovely presentations. I learned a lot. And today I'm going to talk about the Tableau Public Portfolio Viz that I did and the process of making it. We will discuss how I got the idea for the first place to create it, and how I leveraged Ken's Flarage API service, which is great. Also the map layers that Chim dimensions and image roles, which is a new feature in Tableau, in order to do so, have everything together and get this viz done. So, but first, a few words about me. In my day job, as Chimdi said, I work at ZoomInfo. I lead the Center of Excellence team around analytics and data viz. I'm Tableau Public Ambassador and featured author. I really like to viz, and I'm doing it for 10 years now, out of which 7 happy years with Tableau. When I'm not working, I spend time with my family. I'm really into music and again, vizzing, as you can see. So I told you about my hobbies, and if I'm to talk about my portfolio, let me take this opportunity and share a few visits related with music, which is my other major hobby. This is about the Beatles. It was my first visit of the day. It has the most favorites and was inspired by the legendary Adam E. McCann. This is my most favorite viz out of all the vizes that I made about Pink Floyd. I told you that I love to play on the guitar and the piano, so I made tutorial vizes about that using Tableau. Those are definitely my favorite vizes, and my 2 cents here is to actually viz what you're passionate about, if you can. The result will be accordingly, I guess. I believe the previous speaker, Dinushki, she will agree with that saying, because I know she loves music as well. And she created the phenomenal the Firebird suit viz, which is really a piece of art. So kudos. But we're not here to talk about music, right? We're here to talk about the Tableau Public Portfolio viz. So generally, a little bit of agenda. We'll talk about how I got the data. I'll showcase some of the viz features. Then the idea of how I get this to do this is quite interesting. I'll talk about it a bit as well. And then I'll concentrate on the layout. It will basically be a generalized how-to session. I would say it will be more intermediate level, but if you feel that you want me to deep dive into something, please feel free to use the Q&A. Chimdi, I'll need your help here. Please feel free to stop me if you see it right, and we can discuss things in more depth. So first thing I would like to talk about is the data. And I guess most of you have the idea where I get the data from. So this is from the great API service by Ken Fleralge, which I believe most, if not all of you know. And if you don't know, I strongly recommend it. You have the QR code here. You can scan it and go and have like metadata of your public Tableau portfolio. Once you set up, you'll get a Google Sheet that is updated daily. That should allow you to refresh it automatically. I would say that actually I have some glitches with it. Recently, I cannot figure why. I'm still investigating. For some reason, it is not updating. It's not the service to be blamed because there's another viz relying on it that do updates. I hope I'll get it sorted out soon and share with you the solution. Anyway, let's look at the file. Let's see what you're getting there. So this is the file you will get if you will sign out to that service. And this basically have all the data points my viz is based on. This is all you need. You have the viz ID and the URLs, and then usage stats and views and favorites, and your public profile links. So this is basically the only single source worksheet going behind the viz that I'm about to show, that I showed recently. All right. So let's talk about the viz itself. Let's see its main feature. So the upper level, mainly it's the title. Nothing new here from the regular Tableau portfolio. For my peak, I use the new image role functionality. And I also add the curved edges. Let me try something to see if it works. You can see the highlight. Yeah, great. So this is why I will explain how I did that in a bit. And all the bio fields are from the file I just showed. And what's interesting here is that I used a different approach. I kind of designed a card for each one of the vizes. And each has its own card with the views and the favs here. And the possibility to select, a clickable button to go actually to the viz, and the possibility to select a mobile and friendly link here. So let me show what it means. If I'm to go to the viz, all right, this is the viz. Currently, you see that the desktop is selected. And if I click on the link, for a certain viz, it will open with the regular Tableau link with the general surroundings and the menu on top and a bit of details below. But if I want to make it more friendly, more mobile friendly, and not showing everything on the surrounding, I can click the mobile here. And then once I click this button, I will get to a more mobile friendly layout. It will render properly to fit the screen size of your phone. And this is the one with the show viz home now at the end of the URL. I guess some of you are familiar with it at least. So there is that functionality. And you can see the ovals between. This actually the hashtags that you put if you put the details on the description of the viz. In this case, it has the Beatles hashtags, music, and string graph. So I thought it would be nice to showcase them here below to give like more info on the viz itself. Actually, the way I made it is to it show up to 5 hashes. I created a calculated field for each, and using the split function, locating the hash sign, I created 5 different hashes. I limited its length by a parameter. So if it will get too long, it will not slide out of the oval frame. And if it does, I will stop it and add like 3 dots. As you can see here, I use this for all of the 5 hashtags that I'm showing. And then finally, we have the toolbar. We can sort the visits by favorites or by views or by date added. We can search for specific topic or hashtags that we want to see in the viz itself. And we have these pagination buttons, so we can move along the visits. It depends how long or how big is our portfolio is. And again, let me show it to you. So currently, the visits are sorted by favorites. I can do and switch it to views and date of creation. I can look for specific topic. Let's say I want, surprisingly, to see the music-related visits. I can search for music, and then I can see only the visits that related to music. So I thought that would be helpful to have like more information and feeling about the portfolio and something that you're looking for specifically. And there is the pagination that you can scroll along the visits. So this is basically the basic functionalities that I wanted to create. All right, so let's talk about the idea. Where did I get the idea from? And this is quite interesting. So first, I want to clarify, I don't wish to compete with the current layout, which is becoming better and better with recent additions. The truth is that I got the idea from my day job, trying to come up with an organizational portal for our main production dashes at ZoomInfo. I grayed out all the business information, so sorry for that. But this is how it looks like. It's currently work in process. Originally, I wanted to showcase the really good visits that we have, because you know how it's like with big organizations. There's a lot of users, and there's a lot of people who created dashboards. And once a user wants to get to a specific business question, is search for something, there is a lot of clutter that he needs to focus. So we're doing a work on minimizing that. We did some really great automation process to approach the creators and see if their visits are actually used. But we wanted to make something that is really more concise, like for every domain to have the really productionized visits that it has. We wanted to be available for anyone seeking for answers with specific business questions. And we wanted the ability to search for specific API and to see all the visits that relates to it. So if I have a question about sales or about leads or anything, I can just type it and see all the related visits. I can see which one are used the most, and hopefully I can get faster to the business questions that I'm looking for. So this is still work in process. Let's see what turns out of it. But in the meantime, I thought I use this new image role functionality to show the thumbnails of the visits. I will explain about it later on. But then I thought, why not using it as a showcase to my Tableau public data? And this is how I turned it out to this layout. So this is where it all came from. So I mentioned a lot. I talked about a lot about image URLs. I mentioned them many times. So let's talk about it in more depth. First, I would like to recommend on Tableau team great YouTube videos, which got me started with URL images. You have the QR codes here you can scan. Really great videos. I really like team's work. And I would also like to recommend on Cloudinary service, which is also I took from Tim, and actually we use it also in Zoom Info. It's a great service. It allows you to do magic with online images, transform them on the go, resize, add frame, focus on face, crop, and many more cool things. It has a generous free trial. In fact, I use it already for 2 public visits. One of them was Viz of the Day, so it got relatively high views. And still, I am using only 6% of the offered capacity. So this is great. It's a great thing to start and have a robust platform to rely on. And you know what? Let me take you to Cloudinary itself. Yeah, so this is basically their service, their website, and all the pictures, all the images that I'm loading are stored here, and this is done automatically. By no means I'm adding picture one by one. I'll show you how I'm doing that later on, but this is a great place to store the images and then use manipulations that I was mentioning. And really, I recommend for you to have a free trial for starters. It's free and gives you great options. I don't work there. I really find it useful. And let's see how I used it for the URLs in both the use cases that I was showing. So the upper URL is the one I used in the analytics portal for my organization. We are using Tableau Cloud. And if you are familiar with Tableau Cloud, it has a dedicated metadata data source called site content in the admin views. The red stars here are the Tableau Cloud Pod, basically what's in your Tableau Cloud URL, and then you can add this string. Again, this is using the site content, the item ID of your specific Tableau asset that you are using, and the thumbnail.png suffix, and then you can put it in as a calculated field, assign it to the image role capabilities, drag into the rows and the columns, and have a thumbnails of all your organizational assets, mainly the views. So this is what I did for the Tableau Cloud part. And for the Tableau Public viz that we're talking about, this is the URL. You see it's much more longer. Here I used Cloudinary because I needed to render the size to fit. I needed to render the image sizes to render properly for Tableau. So I needed to make them smaller. And basically, again, this is the credentials that you're getting once you do that. You start with the cloudinary.com initials. Then this is a really cool feature that Cloudinary has. It's called fetch. It means that you can go to a specific URL, image URL that you are having, basically what we have in Ken's file, take it, upload it on the go to a Cloudinary server, and then once it's in the server, apply manipulation. In this case, I added rounded edges on the tops and white frame. And most importantly, I use the scaling to make it smaller and render properly. And then I added this thumbnail, and this is how I generated the image URLs and the thumbnails for each one of the visits. All right, so before I talk about the layout, are there any questions? Something that you want me to go through? Chimdi?
I think one that just came up, I guess in the chat, someone is saying that they missed the video that you had shared on Tableau image reels and Cloudinary. So I think if you can maybe share that in the chat, that would be helpful. And then for Q&A, let's see what we've got. Sorry, my screen's all over the place. Sorry,
All right, we can continue.
yeah, say continue. I do not see anything new in the Q&A. Yeah, I think we can go on there. Thank you.
Yeah, so, okay, so now let's talk about the layout. And this will be more technical. And this is how I actually made the structure of this visual, what you are showing. So for that, I used map layers. Map layers, for those who are not familiar, is not that new feature, but it's a relatively new feature that Tableau added. It allows you to, basically it was designed for maps. So you can pile up layers on top of layers to have like the physical layer, and then maybe add the buildings, and maybe add rivers and names and text. So you can really have cool GIS functions in Tableau. But the beauty that, the flexibility that it brought to Tableau is that you can use them in regular visits, not necessarily on map. So instead of being limited to the dual access that you have, you can have, like, I would say, unlimited number of accesses, and you can put them on top of each other and basically draw whatever you like. There are really great examples of how you can use that. You know what? Let me find the one that I really love. I think it's called Beyond Dual Access. Yeah. So this is really a great blog about that. I strongly recommend, if you want to see and understand how to use it. There's tons of examples of how to leverage this feature and use like amazing visualizations that are not necessarily are geographical and maps, but then to use this feature and to create really amazing views. So I will share this link later. Actually, if we are here already, let me show you how I used it for a business dashboard, the map layers, this one. So this is a Superstore bands. Sorry, didn't want to do that. So if you go into that viz, let's go to this one. So you can see there are lots of layers. There is one layer for this line and one layer for that line. And the new thing that I try to accomplish here is to calculate the difference between the blue line is the current year, sorry, and the darker one is the last year. And I wanted to have like a line created to visualize the difference between the two. If you go to the original dashboard, you can see you can switch to show the subsequent year or to have a year-over-year view. And this is really gives you lots of functionality. It's not easy to digest. It involves like normalizing the numbers, but once you master it, it opens up the whole world of possibilities. So for those of you who wants to try it out, I'll share the blog that I was starting from, and you can surely take it from there. Let's go to our viz. I use the map layers functionality for that viz as well. I used for each one of the card grid of 1/1 here. And then I used map layers to place the different components all along the card. So for example, sorry, before that, I told you that, I didn't tell you, I tell you now. One caveat that we have for the image URLs is that you can use it not as a mark, but as only in the rows or in the column. In the columns, this is like where we use this, the URL. And once we place that, we use the map layers to fix all the components that we see here along the viz. For example, if I'm showing this component here, the published placeholder, you see that it's based on a make point function, simply giving coordinates of almost 1 and 0. So it places it here. And if I'm using the layer to place the button here, so I use this feature to, I call it URL make point, the calculated field. It's simply make point of almost 5 and almost 0, 5, and 5, like that. So you can see these are the coordinates. And so for the views and the favorites, and for the ovals, I use some more sophisticated calculation because I can have 1 or 2 or 3 up to 5 different ovals, and I want to spread them out equally. So in order to do that, I used these formulas. So for example, for a viz with 2 hashtags, this one, I'm placing the 2 hashtags on 1/3 and 2/3 of the x-axis, and this is because it has like only 2 hashtags. And so for if I have like 3 or 5, 4 or 5, I use this formula to place them accordingly, so you can see they are spread out evenly and to the center all along the vizes, up to 5 hashtags that they have. Lastly, I want to discuss briefly on the paginations buttons that I used. So it is built on incremental parameters that once I click up or down, it's increment or diminish the parameter, and that allows me to move along the pages. I took this originally from Kevin Fleralge again, brilliant post about parameters. This is where I started with parameters, which are actually one of my favorite features in Tableau. So really recommended the post to start and understand parameter actions. So I used that in order to increase and decrease the pagination number. And I also needed to create groups of visas. I told you that I have 57 total visas, and I want to show pages of 7 visas. I wanted to fit to a mobile view and to spread all along. Also, I have a limitation of rendering for the image role images. It cannot render more than 30 visas, so I need to make them in a separate views. So I created views of 7 groups of 7 visas using the simple calculation. This is the rank of the viz, depends on what I choose. Currently, it's ranked by the most favorites. So the Beatles is ranked number 1, and there's the other Tableau public viz that I did. This is rank and number 2, and so forth. And what it does, it takes the rank and it divides it by the number of visas that I want to show. In this case, I want to show 7 visas. It takes it into an integer formula and then adds 1. So let's say the Beatles is 1 divides to 7, it's almost 0, plus 1, it's 1, and so forth for the other visas. And then I create like groups according to what I want to show. And this is how I create separate pages for each one of the visas that I show. And with that, and looking on the time, I think we will summarize. We discussed on the creation process of Tableau Public Portfolio briefly, as much as the time allowed us. And we discussed the data, the viz, the features, the idea, the layout. So I hope you find some of it at least helpful. I wish to thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure. I would love to keep in touch with all of you. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course, Tableau Public. And if you have any questions in the 5 minutes that I think we have, I'll be happy to take them.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Nir. I see, where did that go? All right. So someone is asking, what is a good resource for learning how to use map layers in this?
Oh, yeah, so I just show it. This one. Let me show it. This is really good source. This explains you everything. How to where is that? Yeah, so first thing you need to do is identify the measure. This is the tricky one. You need to normalize it to fit the longitude and latitude of the maps. Usually we normalize them, the values to be between 0 and 1. So this is a bit trickier, but once you get it, you can use it as geographical fields and use the layers. And there's great examples here of how to use it. Let me share it. In the meantime, if there are more questions, I'll be happy to.
Okay, so thank you. I think we have one more here that says, we use Tableau Cloud too. When you're creating thumbnails from the assets, what are you rendering if the view is user specific? Is that question clear enough? I myself, I'm not 100%.
If the view is user specific, like it's a permission question?
So something to do with Tableau Cloud. Basically, when you're creating the thumbnails, I believe this might be in Cloudinary, if I'm not mistaken. What are you rendering if the view is user specific? Maybe I guess whoever asked this, Allison, maybe you can reach out to Nir directly so that he can address that in detail. Because I don't know how to expand on what's being asked here, unfortunately.
I think that if there is a user filter or row-level security, usually you have like this little personas.
Yeah.
And does it generate the persona or does it generate a view? I suppose that was the question.
Yeah, so it all depends how you find it. In my case, I want it to be visible for everyone within the organization. So I use extract value. I use extract data because there is no sensitive data, I put it in the server into a public folder, which everyone can see. And then you don't have issues with the Cloudinary because, again, we use a Cloudinary account in ZoomInfo as well. We have a secured server there. You send it to Cloudinary, you get it back to your server, and then there is no issues of showing it. And then if you click on the button of the viz, then it's become a question of permissions. If you don't have permissions to see it, you won't see it. And if you do, you will. And the idea is that if you don't have permissions and you wish to see, you can know that it exists and approach the owner and ask permissions so you can see it properly.
Awesome, thank you. So that, I think, covers it. Okay, yeah, so yes. So that exactly was being actually clarified in the Q&A. So I believe you've answered the question. Thank you so much for that. And I don't see anything else here. So I think, I'm gonna say thank you to all the speakers, and I'm gonna pass this back to Annabelle to help us round this off.
Yeah, so thank you very much for all the speakers. I will ask the speaker to send me all the information you want me to share with the group by email. The next session is in March. I'm trying to search very quickly for the date because I have very bad memory. It's also, it's in 1 month exactly, because it will be the 23rd of March. And we will send obviously the email next week with the recording and everything, and also to be able to register for the next session. But I think you will be very, very pleased with the speaker that we already have lined up. So thank you very much to everyone. And I will see you in April for me. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.